Hey, what's up guys? Rideshare guy here, and today we're going to talk about are Uber drivers allowed to cancel super long requests. Now, most trips that you're going to get as a driver are going to be in probably the 10 to 15 minute range, but once in a while you will get a much longer request, right? I drive in Los Angeles, for example, and I feel like almost every time I go out, I get at least one long ride from LA to Orange County, or at least somewhere that's an hour, just because LA is such a big and spread out city. So should drivers always accept these rides, these 1 hour ride requests? Are they even allowed to not accept them? And what about if you get a crazy situation like a 5 hour ride request? What should you do? Now, the important thing to remember is that you always have the option to not do a trip, to cancel a ride at any time, but the way that you do it is going to be super important, right? Because more often than not, the situation that comes up when you get a long request is, let's say you have somewhere to be, or you just don't want to drive in that direction because it's the opposite way of your house or something like that. So let's look at an example, right? Example one, let's say you have to be somewhere in 2 hours and you get a 1.5 hour ride request, right? You know that it's going to take at least an hour and a half to get back, and that would make you an hour late, right? So in that scenario, you can always let the rider know what your predicament is, right? Say, hey, I have somewhere to be. Unfortunately, in 2 hours, I'm probably not going to be able to do this trip because I'd be late to get to my appointment, and ask them to cancel the ride. Now, some riders will do that, and that will be that. They'll go and request another driver. Others may not be so accommodating though, right? And you might have to cancel the trip, because you have to remember that you don't know where passengers are headed until you start the trip, right? And so the only way to cancel a ride at that point is to end the trip. And in that case, the rider gets to rate you. So that's why it's super important the way that you handle these situations. If you are kind of a dick about it, they're probably going to leave you 1 star, right? But if you're explain the situation, hopefully they'll still leave you 5 stars, and you let them know that they can contact Uber for a refund on that trip. Now, I try not to drive when I have somewhere to be at a certain time to sort of avoid situations like this. But I mean, hey, if you need to make money and you have to pick up your kids, or you have to be at another job, I totally understand how this could happen, right? You got to do what's best for you. Just make sure that you understand sort of like from the rider's perspective, right? If they're requesting a 1 hour plus ride, they tend to be more understanding of a situation like this, right? But if it's just a 40-minute ride across town and you have somewhere to be in 45 minutes, that might be more on the driver than the passenger, right? You can imagine that for some riders, if they're on a tight time schedule, right, canceling that trip and then re-requesting a ride might take a lot of time. So you definitely risk a bad rating by doing this. But at the same time, if you're doing a really good job of, getting 5 stars with all of your other passengers, it's okay to take a little hit on your rating once in a while, right? This is something that where maybe you take a little dip in your rating, but it's going to save you a ton of time and even really save you a lot of money, right? So like I said, you don't know where they're headed, but I mean, the only scenario that I could think of where you would know where they're headed sort of ahead of time is to the airport, right? Let's say you get to a rider's destination. Before you start that trip, if you see them come out with a bunch of luggage in their hands, right, rolling big suitcases, you probably have a good idea that they're headed to the airport. And in that scenario, right, let's say it's sort of random, but let's say you fall in and you can't drive to the airport at that time or don't want to or whatever it is for that reason, you can sort of keep that in your back pocket. Not the best experience for the passenger, but I think if you use it occasionally, only when it really matters or it's really important, this is a total one-time thing, whatever it might be, because that way if a passenger comes out of the house with the luggage, you know where they're headed, and then you can hold off on starting the trip and they'll never have the chance to rate you. Explain the situation that way, ask them to cancel the trip and go from there. So hopefully this guy shed some light on these long requests, how to handle them. I'd love to know from you guys, are you always happy when you do get these long requests? Would you rather have the shorter requests? What's the perfect range for you? And feel free, if you guys did like this video, give us a little thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. We do release new videos every single Tuesday and Thursday, and a lot of them are based on the questions that we're getting from our viewers. So feel free to leave a comment, send me an email, and maybe you'll see your question answered on the YouTube channel someday. All right, take care, guys.